Think about it. Every hiring decision is a choice that can make or break a team, a culture, and even an entire company. So how do we make the right choice? Hi, I'm Dr. Mickey, and welcome to Inside the Mind of Hiring. Here we'll uncover the psychology and strategy behind effective hiring, because the right fit isn't just about skill or experience. It's about understanding people, their motivations, their strengths, and the shadows of their shortcomings. Together, we'll tackle the tough questions. How do we look beyond bias? How do we find the qualities that make people not just qualified hires, but the right hires? This is about identifying leaders who drive success, lift morale, and actualize a company's vision. Inside the Mind of Hiring starts now. Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Mickey Fineberg, and I'm here with my colleague, Dr. Pat Baccili, and we're talking leadership today. And our show name is Inside the Mind of Hiring, as you hopefully know by now. But our episode title today is Can Leaders Be Smart Before They Do Something Stupid? But I've got a corollary to that, Dr. Pat. And my
Okay.
corollary, should leaders do something stupid in order to be smart? How do you like that?
Oh, I like that. I can't wait to hear
Well,
about that one because that sounds like me.
yeah, so that'll, it definitely sounds like me. So I'm going to, based on that little curve, I'm going to talk about that a little later, as we wrap up this episode. But we're doing a follow-on today from a previous episode um, where they wrapped around or involved a very successful third generation manufacturing company. And they're doing very well. And it's being run right now by a third generation president. And the situation was that they just had a major improvement to their company. They had a major expansion, upgrades, significant upgrades and improvement, in technology and equipment to meet the higher customer demand that they fortunately have and to sustain their competitive advantage. Um, so they're digesting all that now and doing very well with it, with these changes, these major changes. So the president smartly, since we're talking about smart and stupid, decided to hire, and we talked about it, a COO to join the business. And what the COO's responsibility has been, just for about 3 months now, his name is John, they hired him, and his responsibility is to sustain the already improved operation and to enable the president to work on the business rather than in the business, so that the president can kind of think ahead and continuing to position the company to grow successfully and in a profitable way. And it's been about 3 months. When we talked to you last, when we had the last episode on it, when we discussed this issue, the president was sensing that the COO was not really developing sufficient credibility, relationships, trust. He was just sensing that with his managers. And of course, he wanted to do something about that because he's a pretty action-oriented, proactive guy. He wanted to do something about it. So let me just digress for a second to say that the COO, John, has a good manufacturing background. However, his focus has been on fixing distressed operations rather than developing them over time. He's in his early 40s, and he's certainly well equipped to do a good job, but he doesn't seem to be starting off quite right. So, what did he decide to do first? And it was part of our episode last time. what he decided to do first is like he was sensing at a gut level that it wasn't going as well as he would like. So he selected key managers who he's known for a long time, have been with the company for a long time, and who he trusts to give him straight answers, but certainly not to undermine John, because that's not what he wants to do. And and boy, the red flags went up for my colleague, Dr. Pat.
Just for
Just
a
to let
minute, just for a minute, just for a minute.
just for a minute. And we went back and forth on that because, of course, Dr. Pat, the episode was about leaders sabotaging leaders, and she thought
Yeah,
this is definitely a sabotaging tactic, or potentially
yeah,
so.
potentially.
And
Yeah,
yeah,
potentially.
and I
Yeah.
saw it as, he trusts these guys to give him the right answers, but also not to undermine John. And so I felt there were some upsides to it from the standpoint that it could give the president some good uh, information to be really specific in his feedback to John, as a first step to getting him on the right track. So then the president made another big mistake. He brought me in to consult with him, and and, and it talk about doing something smart, but doing something stupid first. So it's not real smart. We talked about three options. One was that I, get right away, get involved with John, do a developmental assessment, give him some feedback, then align John with the president on his development plan. Put a development plan together and follow up with him on that plan. And in many regards, that would protect his privacy and not expose any weaknesses or leadership perception of John's
Hmm.
weaknesses to the organization. But at the time, I thought it was a little bit heavy-handed. I thought it was a little bit too much. So then we talked, and with as the president's idea, this second option was to every option has feedback first. So this second option was that the president would model the right way, maybe to engage his people in a meeting and talk about opportunities. And of course, John would be present and contributing to the meeting and all that. And then they would debrief and about what John would learn, and then he would follow up independently. Um, I was a little concerned about that idea, and I think um, Dr. Pat, who's very prone to slapstick, put tape on her mouth and even fell off her chair, which, which was a nonverbal way of telling me that is crazy.
Well, each of those, look, every decision we make has a choice point, has a defining moment. Every decision.
Right.
And, this is the point. It doesn't matter if you're making a multi-gazillion dollar decision or
Right.
you're deciding what to eat for dinner. Every decision we make has two sides to a coin, at least. And
Right.
so, what we were analyzing in this scenario is where is the win-win for everyone?
Right.
That's really
Right.
what we were looking for on the
Sure.
table.
Sure.
And, you know, you're going to tell us what actually happened.
Yeah.
However, in the rule book of things, right, about
Right.
trust, going behind your immediate employee to their employees traditionally has caused issues.
Right.
So, but there's a factor that we didn't consider in that, which you're going to reveal. And that
Right.
factor
Right.
is, how does the person who you went around react? Because most reactions in a scenario like that, I mean, they're not really good,
Right.
right? But there are a whole lot of reasons why they don't turn out good. One, there wasn't
Right.
trust there to begin with. I mean, we could go on.
Right.
But in this
Right.
case, this has a kind of cool ending, I think.
Oh, it does. It does. Let me get to it. But the third option we talked about was because it was really coming from me, where I thought he should, of course, first get feedback and then be prepared to run a meeting on his own, but with the president being there just sort of to help to facilitate it and express support. Well, that was another, and that's what I ultimately recommended in this case. But my colleague wasn't happy with that either because she saw the downside issue of still, I think, exposing John as relatively weak and he needs too much hand holding to be effective.
Well,
And
don't you remember the president was actually going to run the meeting to show him how to run a meeting?
well, that was first. That was the
Yeah.
one we just talked about. This is second. I know how you reacted to that. This one was where John actually runs the meeting with
Yeah.
the president sort of being there as
Yeah.
with moral support and help and
Yeah.
facilitate a little bit. So this is what actually happened, and this is it didn't surprise me. Didn't surprise me, but it made me think about how to really be smart sometimes. If you're in a leadership role. And what happened was the president gave him straight feedback. The feedback consisted of this. What I understand is people think you're a nice guy. They think you're smart. They think you're knowledgeable. But what you're suggesting to them in terms of incremental improvement opportunities is not really clear to them. And they don't really feel that they're participating or engaging with you on the prospects of these ideas that you have, or even to gain clarity on them, of course. But even on the tactical side, they don't feel like you're making them a part of the tactical what ifs related to these opportunities that you're bringing up to them. It still have to be clarified. And what John did was, and this happens, and what John did was like he accepted the feedback like a champ. He was all over it. He said, I'm so happy you told me this. I really apologize for this start, these missteps in the way I started with the folks. And he took 100% responsibility for the what happened and what he may have engendered and what he needs to do about it and what he said.
We're not talking about the president here.
Right.
We're talking about the person that we were referring to without disclosing names,
right,
who was in charge of the group.
Right.
So we have to take a moment right now.
Right.
Because that is an amazing demonstration of leadership.
It sure is.
It really is. And we need to talk about that because you see, anything that I said goes down the toilet when you have a person like this, right?
Right.
So, but this is extraordinary. It's less about the leadership of the president and the owner of the company, and it's more about this individual who, by the way, had not been on the job very long. So what does that say to you about the hiring decision of this gentleman?
They actually did a good job in hiring this guy because he's actually, in my view, he's being a hero in this situation.
Yeah.
He's being a real absolute champ in this situation.
Yeah. There's no
not
question.
A chump. He's being a champ.
Look.
And so what John said to the president, let me meet with these guys. And what he did was when he met with them, he owned up to his mistakes, his missteps. And he, it's like a mea culpa. And he said, I'm really glad I got this insight. And I'm really sorry that I started this way. So he said, what I want you guys to do, I would really appreciate if you could come to me, let's say in our next meeting, and suggest from your point of view what you think, there's major changes, but now that the dust is settled, what our improvement opportunities could be. I'd like to hear from you. And that's kind of how I left it. And he got good spontaneous feedback from the guys on just doing that. And again, to me, that's really great leadership. It's really great leadership.
But he also took it one step further too, right?
Yeah.
because it's one thing to really look at employees and say, I'm gonna connect with you, I'm gonna do something. But it's another thing to say, these people are so important to me that I'm going to do something to expand my relationship with them, to show them who I am. Didn't he do some
Right.
kind of barbecue
Yeah, yeah,
invitation
this
or
is something
something?
else.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the prior 2 months, the company had record months. I mean, killing the records.
Hello.
And what what John suggested is let's have barbecues in all three shifts. And you know what? Let me be the cook. Let me be the grill man for those barbecues.
I'm coming.
Right.
I'm Sign me up.
Whatever. Yeah, all three shifts. He's going to be the grill man as it was his idea to celebrate this great performance
Yeah.
by the company in the last couple of months. And I said, wow, isn't that a great idea? Because all that's going to do is engage people on an informal and personal level and
Hmm.
further develop relationships and trust with these managers that are, really his partners in crime to continue building that business
Hmm.
without the president's direct involvement. The president did something else, which I thought was a good idea. Um, he feels that, and I think John acknowledged it, he needs a little bit of work around the focus on developing relationships right now. So he's arranging, and John's very receptive to this, to engage or meet with the vice president of sales, and whose strength is just that, building relationships,
Yeah.
not just with customers, but with his
Yeah.
own people. And John seemed really positive and excited about that, and
Yeah.
that's going to be an ongoing move. And I just think that's a great idea as well.
I do too.
So
But let's have a little reminder real quick before we keep going here, because you and I
yeah,
have done shows about this. When we came up with this topic, I thought to myself, I went, oh, does anybody come to mind for me? Hello, Martha Stewart. Okay, so why am I bringing up Martha Stewart? Because
God
Martha
knows
Stewart,
why.
well, I'll tell you why, because Martha Stewart has been seen as a leader in that industry and field. So here we are with Martha, made a mistake. Now, not all leaders make mistakes that send them to
Right,
jail. Hence, Winston Churchill, just saying, but we're not going to talk about him today. But
right,
look at what happens. You see, there she is, does her penance. Okay, that was a little Catholic, but does her
right,
penance for it,
right,
comes out of the gate. And I don't know that Martha Stewart was ever as popular as she is today.
right,
Now, there's something to be said for the cycle of this, right? For the
right.
acceptance of this. First of all, John accepted. He was
He-
open. First, he was aware. Then he was accepting,
right.
right? Then he was willing to take a different action.
Absolutely. He was a person or man, yeah, yeah, on this. No question. Yeah, yeah.
That is those things that we're talking about for John. Those are exquisite signs of leadership coming out of the gate and becoming even greater.
Right.
That's
That's
the
absolutely
opportunity
true.
John has. He has an
Right,
opportunity to become even greater.
right. He saved the president from doing something stupid, and he
Yeah.
saved me for suggesting something that could have been stupid.
Yeah. I mean,
Sure.
the other night I was talking to somebody about this and about this topic, and they said, oh, wait a minute. Who do I said, well, okay, who do you have? John F. Kennedy. They said,
Ah,
John F. Kennedy. I said, Bay of Pigs, John F. Kennedy.
oh, right, right. Yeah,
And I had to think about that for a minute because that was a nail biter that we didn't know was a nail
right,
biter until, like, I don't
right,
know, started to make
right,
movies about it. But in
right,
the end, the decision didn't kill billions of people.
right.
Right?
Well, and not only that, didn't he admit that he was wrong?
Yeah, I think so.
He
I think,
did.
but yeah, I don't know if that was before he said, don't ask
God
what your
forbid,
country. Yeah. Oh, God forbid, we
a
wouldn't be
president
here.
of the United States should admit they're wrong, that it wasn't the best decision.
Didn't Washington do that, or did he actually cut down that cherry tree? I don't know. But you understand You know what we're talking about. In
Right.
the world we're living in now, you and I are talking about a very private situation. But I will tell you the scrutiny now between social media, social posts, things that are happening. We are looking at people, and you and I have done 2 shows on leadership, and I am trying not to do another one, but I have never seen stupid from a leadership principle perspective that I'm seeing in the commissioner of the WNBA.
Right.
Because think about what accountability looks like if we use John as an example. The issue, forget about the fouls, forget about you not doing anything, but
Right.
to set up a task force to decide whether you want transgender athletes in your league. You're getting
So
paid the big bucks, Kathy.
yeah.
You're going to ask the players. You see, leadership sometimes means you have to handle the tough situations.
You have to handle the tough
You've
decisions.
got to. You've
Right.
got to. And
Right.
what you're talking
So
about
in
is
other words, you're saying some things you just don't throw open to the troops.
you just don't throw them open, right?
Right. Right.
And I don't think your president did that. Your president didn't throw John under the bus. So let's
No.
talk about that for a minute.
Right.
We have somebody in great intention that went out there, even though I went wacky about it originally.
Right.
But you did have somebody with a good intention. See, the bottom line is they're all about making the company better.
That's right. That's
That's
right.
right.
That is the bottom.
That's
Well, I
right.
just talked to the president again yesterday,
Oh,
and I said,
okay.
"Well,
Give us an update. Come on.
yeah." He's talking about. I said, do you see yourself in a situation now where you really need to get involved with him physically, in the troops? He said, yeah, maybe down the road. And I said, he's John's doing well enough on his own. I said, be very careful about your direct involvement with him, and his people right
Thank
now.
you, Dr. Mickey. So you
And
saw the blue tape, right? You got the
yeah, yeah,
message.
I definitely saw the blue tape. I definitely because he's on a roll. He's really doing the
Yeah,
right things,
yeah.
and he's taken initiative to do the right things. And it started with just like some insight and a light bulb that went off in his head, and how he's handled it since then. So I said,
Yeah.
in many ways, I said you really have to trust his judgment right now. He might make a mistake, but he'll have you to discuss things with. You can have regular debriefings with him on what's going on and stuff like
Hmm.
that. That's your job, is to coach him. But let him run out there and be independent, do it on his own, and learn that way. Because what we've learned is that he really does have good judgment, and that he is doing the right thing. And but I said one of the things you might emphasize with him, does he really have to solve problems right now? Does he, unless it's obvious, but does he really need to explore improvement opportunities? You just went through a major improvement. You had 2 great months.
Yep.
You know, maybe he needs to just focus on the relational aspect
Exactly.
of what
Yeah.
he has to accomplish. That has to be his immediate objective right now. I said the barbecue is great. That's a great example of that. And I said, what he can do is get stupid. This is where get stupid means you can get stupid as a way to be smart. And what I mean by get stupid is uh, maybe he can learn, just focus on learning from these managers.
You got to back off. The president has got to back off of him now. I mean, think about it. Any other arena out there where somebody has less than 6 months service, right?
Right,
That's called a probationary period.
right,
You're giving them direct feedback if they step in a pothole or you see them
right,
stepping in a pothole. But to
right,
start to evaluate performance in less than 6 months doesn't give anybody a chance. And you know what happens to the Johns of the world? They start to second guess themselves. They start to think that no matter
right,
what they do, there's somebody looking over their shoulder, just like a
right,
controlling mom or dad. You understand?
right,
It's the same
right.
idea, right?
Yep, yep. Yeah. So what I think John needs to focus on right now is building credibility by learning, just learning. And
Yeah.
uh, and if he asks questions, for crying out loud, don't be judgmental about the questions you're
Oh
asking.
my
Just
gosh, that's the
be
kiss of death.
totally like, you got to frame it like, I just really want to know, or I just really want to learn. And it wouldn't be a bad idea if he were, if he works with his people, works with them, he works
Oh
on the
yeah.
line a little bit.
Yeah. Being
And
judgment about questions that are being asked is like being in front of the vampire Lestat and thinking you're not going to get bit.
right.
I mean, you understand. I mean, judging questions people ask, you have to really start to look inside yourself if you're doing that. You
Right.
understand?
Yeah,
But what
yeah.
you've done is you've kept a great relationship with the company. You're watching some great things. This company has a future that you and I can't even predict, but we're already seeing it. Hiring decisions are super important. They made the right decision.
They
Now
did.
what they have to do is nurture the
Yeah.
decision and
Right.
not question it. So, Dr. Mickey, for all of that, I mean, first of all, your involvement with the company is going to help them. So I want people to know if they're listening to this and they don't want to be bit by the vampire Lestat, how do they get a hold of you?
Well, they could email me.
Okay.
Love to see an email. Mickey, Mickey, at deltaconsultants.com. Consultants is plural, not ing. And Dr. Mickey Fineberg, Fineberg on LinkedIn. Um, and there's some great posts, just fabulous posts of the episodes we're showing here that you can
Yeah.
review and opine on, or my website, um, deltaconsultants.com. I guess you could do www.deltaconsultants.com, but I think that's the www is not necessary these
Yeah.
days.
Yeah. And you know what? I want to hear from y'all. I mean, if you send me an email at info at thedrdrpatshow.com, I want to know from you. Have you ever been in that position where your boss went
Right,
around you? How did you
right.
take that? What do you think you can do about that? Because this is where Dr. Mickey can help. You know, if you are an executive or a manager of a company and you're watching a dynamic, your first reaction
Sure.
might be to get angry. But here's what I will tell you about being in that position. That's not going to get you to where you want to go.
No,
And if you don't
no,
reach out for help about that, you know what's going to happen? You're going to end up on the wrong side of that road. And
right,
that's what you don't want. Dr. Mickey,
right.
thank you for a great show today, all of the above.
My
And
my pleasure. And
maybe
thank you.
we need to send this to the commissioner of the WNBA, so maybe they can get
Sure.
a little insight on that.
Well,
What do you
well,
think?
our friend Caitlin Clark defended her coach
Yeah, I can't.
recently.
I'm getting ready to write a letter to Caitlin to say, stop defending everybody. Look, there's defending people,
Well,
and then there's the
yeah,
next episode we're going to do.
right, right.
When do you
Well,
defend
that
your
might, but that,
colleagues?
that might be
When,
a good thing to do in public because maybe now our coach will come to her for some advice.
but it's a different issue. It's
Mhm.
when do you try to stop people pleasing and defend yourself instead of
Sure.
others? And
Yeah.
there's a fine line. I'm not
Good
Caitlin
point.
Clark. I'm not working with her, but
Right.
everybody that has been in a position like this, you have to know when you stop covering for
Uh-huh.
people that are stabbing you in the back. And if you
Right.
want to cover this next time, maybe our next show is going to be about Aaliyah in Boston. Anyway, thank you,
Okay.
Dr. Mickey. We'll see you
Yeah.
all next
Take
time. Have a
care.
great day.
Take care, everyone. Take care, Dr. Pat. Thank you. Bye-bye. You have been listening to Inside the Mind of Hiring with me, Dr. Mickey Feinberg. Tune in the first and third Tuesday at 11 on Transformation Talk Radio to discover the psychology of making successful hiring decisions. In each episode, hiring managers and HR pros will learn how to leverage assessments and other key screening sources and avoid common pitfalls. Job seekers will gain insight into successfully presenting themselves. For more information on assessing people for mission-critical jobs and on career assessment and coaching, visit deltaconsultants.com and my LinkedIn profile. If you'd like to write me personally, it's Mickey, Mickey, at deltaconsultants.com.